Hand in hand, we'll find love's promised land. There'll be no one but you for me. Eternally, if you
Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening and watching the Italian American Entertainment Podcast. And I'm your host, Vince Chiarelli. And today we have the great singer and musician, entertainer, Aaron Caruso with us. And Aaron has been performing for over 20 years and headlining all types of venues, including performing arts centers and Italian festivals where we met. And we'll get into his history a little bit now in this show. So welcome, Aaron. How are you doing?
Thanks, Vince. I'm great. How are you doing, buddy?
All right. Good to talk to you. We haven't talked for a while since COVID started things. I haven't talked to you in a few months, so it's good to talk to you.
I know. Wonderful to talk to you. It's been a long time. I usually run into you at festivals across the United States. So
yeah,
not
this year.
Not this year, but
I know.
You know, there's an old saying in Stoic philosophy: the obstacle becomes the way. And that's certainly the case here. When I heard you were starting this thing, I was very excited. And little did I know I'd be asked to be a part of it. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And yeah, I figured someone's got to do it at some point. And, there's a lot of great websites and blogs and Facebook pages for Italian Americans, but I didn't see something just for entertainers, artists, performers, anything, just the entertainment world. So I figured, you know what, now's the time to do it. So here we go. But you're our first, I had the Uncle Louie variety show.
That's great.
The comedians, and then Mr. Ron Onesti, who you know, Ron. And then
Sure.
So you're our first performer, singer on the podcast. So it's great to have you.
I always have my piano ready.
There you go. See, I was just going to say, I don't even have anything ready. You're prepared. But so to start with this thing, since it's about Italian Americans, where are you located now, and where do you trace your ancestry back to Sicily or Italy?
Well, I'm located in Michigan, in Metro Detroit, outside of Detroit, a little town called Macomb. It's actually not very little. It's a big town, but I'm over here in Michigan. I spent, 20 years in New York area, Connecticut. I lived in New Jersey. Spent some time in Reno, Nevada as well after I graduated from college. And my parents, born here, my grandparents are from a little town, famous little town. Everyone says, from a little town you probably never heard of. Provincia di Palermo.
Oh, sure.
Province of Palermo, called Cinisi.
Okay. I think I've heard that.
Yeah, a lot of paisans here in the Detroit area, and also in Milwaukee, all the Sicilians out there. And I run into a lot of them in Massachusetts. Last time we did a festival there, St. Peter's, which is in, oh goodness gracious, Gloucester, Massachusetts.
Okay, yeah, I've heard of that.
A lot of people from that same area. So
cool.
Yeah.
So Palermitano then.
Palermitano, yeah. And I
Yeah.
know you're Sicilian. I know you're.
Yeah, on my grandmother's side, she's from Palermo, and then the rest, my mom's side and my dad's dad, we're all from Aragona, Agrigento. So
Agrigento, right? I remember that.
Yeah, so Rockford, Illinois. We call ourselves Raunisi. That's the people from Aragona. So a lot of people from Aragona, Sicily, and Rockford. But yeah, so cool. So we're both Sicilian.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Sicilians are proud to be Sicilian. I think there's a Facebook page that I'm Sicilian, I'm not Italian, get it right, or something like that.
Well, you look at the history, Vince, you look at the history. I mean, even the language. I don't know how much Sicilian you speak. I know you do speak some, or if not more than that, because we've talked privately. But I mean, you look at the influences of the language.
Yeah.
uh, travagliare instead of lavorare.
Right.
From the Normans are travailler. Even our R's, uno, due, tri. It's not a tre or
Right.
tri, it's tri. And that comes from the French,
Right.
their particular R. And then, of course, and I don't have to tell you because I know you know about this, the town of Marsala, the port town,
Yeah.
which translated originally was Mars et Allah, port of God in Arabic.
Well, that's interesting you say that because I never knew that part, but I just did my ancestry and I knew, so my grandmother's side, her family, the Saladinos, were from Marsala. And now I'm digging into the Saladino side, and that comes from King Saladin from out there. So it's
Wow.
so it's a lot of Arabic. It's interesting once you start seeing that. But I didn't know that about Marsala. I'll have to look that up. That's cool.
Oh yeah, and we have Greek words, even the Sicilian. So like in Italian, for your listeners that speak Italian, let's say, dov'è il bagno? Dov'è il, where's the bath? Right. So we say gabinetto, right? But instead of dove, they use un gabinetto.
I was just gonna say une. That's my that's my big thing. Where I used to work, I had a close friend, and everything I say was une, and so we still text it. She's not Italian at all, but we still text each other une because no one understands what that is. If I speak to a real Northern Italian or something, you say une. If I went over to Italy right now, I'd say une. I wouldn't know what to say. It's hard because I grew up. If any Italian I speak is the slang, is the Sicilian. So
the ou, as you know, is the French. Où est le toilette? Un è un gabinetto. We have to thank the Normans, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That came. With so much French influence in Sicilian, it's kind of it's interesting, But UNESCO finally declared Sicilian a language, which it always was a language. But we always say, and I say the same thing. I'm like, oh, when I was younger, I said, oh, I don't speak the real Italian. I speak the bald-headed stepchild of Italy, Sicilian dialect, the hillbilly Italian, or whatever you want to call it. Well, we know that it's not that. We know that it's a language, and it also has the benefit of being a literary language. That great works of art, great literary works have been written. Yeah. I'm thinking of Luigi Pirandello and of course, great music, like your grandfather, written in Sicilian. So I found out, interestingly enough, that in some of the newer operating systems in Apple, they offered Sicilian as a language.
Really?
And Neapolitan.
Wow. Very cool. Yeah, I was just going to say, it's not just the Sicilians. Napolitano is a whole language of its own. I can't. It's hard for me. I sing it, so because I sing some of those songs, just like you, it's a little easier to understand because you're singing it. But I'll never forget. I had a friend who they're Northern Italian. I think they come from Cinque Terre or somewhere up north.
Yeah.
And I went to his grandparents' house, and we were close friends. And he's like, "Oh, I'm so proud. You can speak to my grandparents." And I started speaking Sicilian. They didn't understand a word I was saying. It was very difficult. It's interesting. We're all from the same Italy, but can't understand each other. It's interesting. But anyways, so getting into your life. So when did you start performing, singing?
I was a young boy, probably I started playing piano about four or five. I started taking lessons. And I had an aunt, my Aunt Mary, that, I think we all had an Aunt Mary.
Yeah.
Who was a little bit of a singer herself, an amateur singer. And I had a little book of piano solos, and one of them was Come Back to Sorrento. So she would start singing that, and she said, would you play the Come Back to Sorrento? And I started playing it. And I said, oh no, there's too many flats, Aunt Mary. Right. I can't, it's in C minor, I said, I can't play it. So when nobody was around, I would try to imagine I was this opera singer, and I would, la, 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 you know, and then I would sing at the top of my lungs. And then one day my parents came in the house and heard me singing. They were, what, that was you? I said, Ma, I wasn't really singing. I was imitating an opera singer. That's not my real voice. Mm-hmm. She said, are you crazy? That's your voice. I said, you don't know what you're talking about. You know the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So I ended up going to sing for the choir director a few years. It took a few years of her egging me on. But I started pretty much probably like you, just kind of performing for the family. Yep. You know, we always had a piano, and my aunts would come over. We'd eat, and I would get on the piano and play Godfather, do this, sing something. That's how we all start.
Yeah, no, being thrown up on a chair at Italian weddings. That was my start with, I can't remember his name, but a band that's still around out of Chicago, Diamante. I don't know if you've ever played with them at one of the festivals, but Diamante was like the go-to in the 90s Italian wedding band. And every time I became like a little member of Diamante, because every Italian wedding, it was throw Vince up there and sing with them. That's how, we all got our start in the Italian families, especially a lot of my cousins, that aren't doing it, as a profession or anything like that. But still, that was the only spot. Parties, backyard parties, and weddings, we all started singing.
Churches, I sang in church choir for a long, and the other thing I did was, so my grandparents passed away before I kind of came to, so I don't really remember them, but I got to know them through their record collection. That my aunts, I had two aunts that never got married, and they lived together, so they still had my grandparents' record collection. When I was going, so I'd go through the record collection, and I found Jerry Vale, Sergio Franchi, Pavarotti, guys from Italy, Emilio Pericoli, and Claudio Villa, and all these great, Italian-American, Italian records. And for me, it was like I was getting to know my grandparents through music. Right. Yeah. And I'm sure maybe you probably had something similar to that with your grandfather, although I know you knew you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't really get into like the record digging and like really going back. My whole life was, Che La Luna and all the standards as a kid, but I didn't really delve deep into it with my grandfather until I was maybe 14 or 15. Then I really sat down with him, and he brought out all the old records, and, the first time I ever heard about any of it was when he said, I'm going to play you a record from someone called Nilla Pizzi. She was the queen of Italian music, and he told me the whole story of how he performed with her in Rockford, and he played me the record, and that's kind of how I got into it deeper and learning about this stuff. But, before it was just, I thought Italian music was his CD. That was it for my whole life. I didn't know. So, but I'm learning more every day. He played with a guy named Arturo Testa, and never knew how big this guy was. And all these different Italian singers that my grandfather played with. It's so cool. And I still don't know a lot by Nilla Pizzi, but I know she was a big deal.
Big name.
Italy. Yeah. So.
Yeah. There's always something that kind of sparks that fire.
Yeah.
And once it's lit, it's all consuming.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a lifetime quest, not unlike a treasure hunter, or like somebody going on like an Indiana Jones, like we're going on this quest to find the hidden song or something,
Right. No. Yeah. So growing up, singing around with your family and all that, but when did you decide this is what you wanted to do, and when did you really start performing for money and, for a real job, if you want to call it that?
Well, I had a cousin of mine that married into the family that really was a big opera lover and a singer himself. And when he found out I started singing, this guy was just like, American guy, but he married my mom's cousin, Mary, and so I sang at their weddings, matter of fact. Anyway, he made me these tapes of Mario Lanza, of Franco Corelli and Pavarotti, all the great tenors. And then he would play like Sinatra and Vic Damone and all these other singers, but Lanza really caught my ears. When I heard Lanza, that was it.
Yeah.
I was sold. I said, this is it. This is what I'm going to do with my life. You know, and I was probably 12 years old. I had pneumonia in 8th grade or 9th grade, or whatever. And as I was getting well, I started listening to this stuff over and over, and I became obsessed with it. Franco Corelli, you know, he'd go up for these high notes, and, you know, he would go, and I would hear this stuff, and I would become entranced. And I kind of associated it, Vince, with getting better. I would hear these high notes, and I felt like they were flying. And I said, oh my God, I want to fly too.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
So I went on this quest to learn how to sing. And then it wasn't until after I graduated college, I moved out to New York. And I was working at a job, you know, a regular job. I wasn't happy in the job. I really didn't like it. And I met at a Mario Lanza luncheon. I went to perform there. And I met this little lady named Maria. And she said, Aaron, I would love to help you any way I can. I said, well, here's my card. Nice to meet you. Well, she started calling and calling and calling. She wouldn't stop calling. So I said, I got to either put her to work or I get a restraining order, one or the other. You know, and she's too sweet and too nice of a little Italian lady. So I went over her house, and she made this big spread and food and everything. And I gave her like 6 or 7 promo packs back then with the CD and the bio.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And she went to work. So she started booking me so much work. I mean, I had already been getting paid professionally to do it, but it was kind of piecemeal.
Right.
Here and there. I was working this job, making, you know, whatever. God only knows what I was making back then. Paying the bills, you know, studying with this great maestro from Italy in New York City, living in New Jersey. I meet Maria. She starts getting me so much work that I start adding it up. And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm making more singing than I am at this little job.
That's cool.
I'm like, wait a minute. I can pay all my bills through singing. So I said, I'm going to wait until I'm booked 6 months to a year in advance of my bills are paid every month. I did a little math equation. You know what I'm talking about. Once I was 6 months or a year booked with singing jobs, I gave my 2 weeks notice.
Wow.
And I never looked back. And that was, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, I guess, 15 years ago, that I went full-time singing and haven't looked back.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, no, it's hard for a lot of people, you know. I've tried, and, you know, it gets to the point where you get so busy with music and you're gone, and it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday is the big deal. And it's like, you got a full-time job, you're working 5 days a week, and then you're gone all weekend working again, and you come back. So it's tough. And it's a hard decision to make, because, you know, you grow up your whole life hearing starving artists, don't do it, you're crazy. But
especially in places like Rockford and Metro Detroit, Michigan, you know, I mean, at least here it's blue collar central where I grew up.
Right. Yeah. No, and yeah, out here, you know, at least we got Chicago, you got Detroit right next door. We got Chicago basically an hour away, but, you know, Chicago is just as hard to get into as, you know, like New York is. It's got a lock on it that if you're from Chicago, you're not getting into Chicago. So it's interesting. Music business is it's a funny business. It is. It's interesting. But so, do you remember your first big show? Like the first time, I'm sure you played a million times, but the first show where you're like, man, this is it.
Well,
like I really like this. Like where you got the crowd and everybody and all that.
I was blessed. So we have a guy here in Detroit named Joe Vicari, and Joe owns a restaurant. He's a series of restaurants, high-end Italian restaurants called Andiamo's.
Oh, sure.
And he also has a showroom, a celebrity showroom, where he brings in national acts. You know, everybody from Regis Philbin, Joan Rivers, who I met there at Andiamo's and ended up touring with her as her opening act for the last 3 years of her life.
Wow.
And it was all thanks to Joe. Well, he also was an owner of, and still is part owner of an amphitheater that seats about 5,000, 7,000 people. So he had me on there more than once as an opener. And then you go walk on that stage and there's 7,000 people out there.
Yeah.
It's, or you're working, when I did Lawrence, Massachusetts, the Feast of the Three Saints, and they had 10,000 people. The audience was so big I couldn't even see the audience.
Right. Yeah, that happened. Yeah, that happened to us in San Diego. Have you played San Diego, the San Diego Festa?
The Sicilian one I have.
The Sicilian
Not
one?
the
Okay.
other one, yeah, which is no longer.
Right, yeah. Both of them are no longer. But that first feeling came to me and Frank when we played at San Diego for the first time, because we'd played festivals, Milwaukee and all these big ones, but when you get those street festivals where this was Little Italy, San Diego, and it's just one shot and there's a stage on one end and the stage on the other end, and then we got up there and just, you're like, how many people are here? They're not all listening to you, and the lady, it's an 8-hour festival in San Diego, and she's like, there's 100,000 people on this, 4 blocks, 5 blocks. It's just like, what the heck? It's crazy, yeah. So that's the first memory I have of me and Frank both looking at each other like, holy moly, that's a big time, a lot of people. But it's fun. The real first time that I got emotional on stage, I would say, and I not really told many people this, was after my grandfather passed away. I got the first Milwaukee Fest that I was able to play that summer, and yeah, so
he was pulling strings.
Yeah, and we got to play on the same stage with Dick Contino that year. So I think it was the last time he got to play, or the second to last time he got to play there. And that was, playing on stage at those big stages at, Milwaukee. That was kind of the first emotional time for me, because he had just passed away and all that. But it's interesting. And do you perform any original music, or do you write? I've never asked you that question.
I do. Yeah, I do write originals. I've written for other artists as well. The creative, the muse of creativity, inspiration, whatever it is, it doesn't just write to me in Italian American stuff or Italian, although a lot of times it does. I get country songs that come to me. I get crazy stuff sometimes, and I just have to. I'm like, okay, let me just write it down, and my piano background in music theory, so I can write. I just write it all out. I do treble and bass, and I write the chords, and I usually just write the melody, and then I'll just write the chords on top, just so I can kind of get it out of my system.
Right. I don't know how you are, but if you're writing a song, how long, or when's the point that you say, scrap it on this song, or will you work on it for like Hallelujah, what's his name? Leonard Cohen wrote it for years or something like that. I'd throw it away by then, I'm a 15 to 30 minutes. If the song's not written in 15 to 30 minutes, it's done. I don't ever look back. I don't know. Some musicians are that way, but I don't know. How are you?
So the really good ones, I get the chills or I get emotional when I'm writing it. But there are some that just come right away, and others that I kind of get. It's like an out of focus picture. I kind of get I can sketch the outline of it, and then I forget about it, and then I come back to it with fresh ears and fresh eyes, and then when I come back to it is when I can tell, is this worth my time, or am I just
right,
kind of a thing. But I usually have an emotional response to it. If I have an emotional response, it just has to come to fruition. I won't stop until it's written.
Right.
Sometimes it's like, it's kind of an emotional thing. And I was like, it's pretty. Let me put that away. Maybe I can use that somewhere else.
Yeah. No, it's tough. It's tough for me. Sometimes I'll do, my iPhone. If something if something God forbid happened to me and someone went through my voice memos, it would just be me humming all these crazy little melodies. And they'd be thinking, what the heck is wrong with this guy? But all these unwritten songs in there, I got to go through someday and just, there's probably something there, piece them all together. It's interesting.
I've done that. I've picked up old melodies that I haven't listened to in 10 years that I just hummed and I said, oh, that would sound good here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't, but you're talking about festivals. There's something about the Italian festivals that are just something special,
Yeah.
something electric, something fun. I mean, everybody loves Italian festivals, and I'm so sad that we weren't able to do any of them this year. One or two I'm doing. Really.
Yeah, it's sad. Yeah, we but none, I think, now that I think about it, because the earliest one we were supposed to do was April. We were supposed to play in New Orleans, and that was right at the heat of when it started, was, March, April. And then everything's postponed to next year, so it's crazy.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So you were talking about when you got that feeling that first time on stage. When were you the most nervous?
It's weird. My next question, it was about getting nervous.
Are you kidding me?
Swear to God, yep. But, that was weird. But, people ask, do you still get nervous, all this? I don't anymore. I'm sure you don't. There's always that feeling.
Okay.
But I don't really get nervous. I'll just get out there and do it. But, like when I get emotional on stage, it's usually, I get this freak feeling where, especially if I'm playing one of my grandfather's songs, for some reason, the guys make fun of me all the time because they just think, oh, it's summertime, we're playing outside. Every time I play one of my grandfather's song, I get just this butterfly, nervous feeling, but I always see like a butterfly on stage. It's weird. And it's just that the first time was in Milwaukee. So when I played that summer, that was the first time I had gotten that nervous feeling. I wasn't nervous to play for the people, but we started playing his song, Play Guitar. And Frank starts it, playing the guitar, and I'm singing over it. And I just was like looking up, and it was just like this huge, nervous, like weight, like but sad feeling, and it was just like, that's that feeling that I get. But it's more, emotional because of the family stuff. But I don't know. What about you? Like what type of feeling do you get?
I had a couple. Anytime I meet and sing for somebody famous, I get really nervous. But when I did Carnegie Hall for the first time, I was, my knees were shaking. I probably would too, yeah. Yeah, I wanted somebody to kill me. It would have been, God forbid, it would have been better than that craziness, nervousness. And I had a friend of mine brought Jerry Veil to hear me in Boston at St. Anthony's feast out there. So here's Jerry Veil, singing Al Di La to Jerry Veil. And I'm thinking, did I mix up those lines in Italian? Am I going to embarrass myself in front of one of my idols since I'm 4 years old? And the same thing happened with Tony Bennett. He wanted to hear me sing, and I'm, that kind of stuff gets me nervous. Oddly enough, though, and I don't know if this is true for you, but the more people there are in the audience, like with the 10,000 people sitting in the audience, I'm scared less than if I'm in a room with 12 people and I can see them and they're analyzing. They're just like.
That's probably more true for me too. If there is any time because people don't realize it, when you're in a theater and it's dark and the lights are shining on it, you can't see anybody anyways. Or if you're on a festival and it's at night, you can't see anybody. At that point, it doesn't matter. But if you're in a small room with 200 people or 20 people and you can feel it. If they don't like it, they're getting up and leaving, and that's a little different. Yeah. But it's a little backwards. You would think, throw anybody else in a situation, they'd be more nervous with 10,000 people watching, but you can't really see.
I think, too, because of the jokes that I have. I had a great mentor in this business, Vince, named Danny Morona, who never became a household name. But, he made many millions of dollars. singing out in Reno and San Francisco Bay Area. Entertainer of the Year 15 times, 12 times in Reno. I mean, studied the stage like, you know, like a mathematician studies math. So the jokes, a lot of my jokes I do, and a lot of my shtick, as it were, on stage is from Danny. And it worked. All the stuff it's guaranteed to work. A lot of people think, and I see it a lot when guys like, you know, you get a lot of these older guys that get up there with their Frank Sinatra tracks that they just found on YouTube, and they get up there and they do the stuff, and they get drunk or something, you know, and they just say whatever the hell comes to their mind, instead of, you know, thinking, well, that's what Frank did. That's not what Frank did.
No, that's not.
That's not what Frank did. Everything they did was rehearsed, was written, was
a show.
Maybe 5% of what they said on stage was unrehearsed. Right. As you know. So a lot of my jokes and my shtick and everything is written for big audiences. Right. So what gets a laugh in 25, 50 people, 100 people gets a gigantic laugh in 2,000, 3,000 people. So I think that's probably why I feel a little more comfortable too.
Yeah. No.
You know?
So what do you love most about your career as a singer at this point in your life?
Well, that's an interesting question, Vince. I think now I'm at a point where, you know, there's the famous circle of life, you know, that they talk about, that we've all seen. Mm-hmm. And I'm at a point now where, you know, I've been on stage singing since I was, I don't know, say 16. I kind of started getting paid 16, 17. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm 43 now, on the cusp of 44. I'm 44. Oh my God!
You don't look it.
Oh, thank you. It's my extra virgin olive oil I put in my hair. You know, Filippo Berio hair. No, but so you know, I've been at it a long time. So I've seen a lot of those old timers go, and then I'm at a point now where I'm kind of the guy that's been in town one of the longest. So I have a voice studio here that I have a very select group of students that I keep, and I'm able to teach them things that were taught to me. Right. And I still am, you know, the voice, thank God, is still there. And then, you know, I'm in a prime. I had a voice teacher that in his 70s, riddled with cancer. He could barely get up his apartment stairs in New York City. I had to help him get up. This strong man, this maestro from Rome, barely walking, out of breath. And he walked over to the piano and he goes, and yet I have a B flat. So he's a testament to my technique.
Wow.
And the guy's, you know, riddled with cancer. May he rest in peace, Luigi. And he said, "This is the proof of my technique. I am riddled with cancer, and yet I get so." So thank God, you know, I'm on the top of my game, and I still get to sing a lot, and I get to do fun things like this with friends like you. You know, so, and I get to give back. And I think now I see my kids just graduated, and I have a lot of them going to colleges and waited on scholarships for singing, and
that's cool.
And it's so gratifying. And I get some of my old teachers that I worked with when I was their age to help me work with them. And that's like hitting 100-point Scrabble word, you know. It's like, oh my, it's like, wow, this is so cool.
That's cool. So kind of keeping on keeping the tradition going, and what's your hope for the Italian American entertainment side of things? And do you have a good feeling that there's people like me and you that are still out there doing this, or do you have a bad feeling that unfortunately it might be, you know, slowing down a little bit?
Well, you know, Vince, that's a great question. And I am so happy there are people out here like you that has a passion for this Italian American music. Italian American is its own genre. Mm-hmm. It's its own cuisine. It's its own language, which is kind of a pitch podge of Sicilian and Neapolitan and Calabrese thrown in there. Yeah. Italian American is alive and well, thanks to, unfortunately, this whole mafia culture thing. Let's face it, and I don't glorify the mafia or anything, but the American culture, for whatever reason, has a fascination with alien, Bigfoot, the mob.
Yeah.
And what else? Walmart, I guess. I don't know. But it's just so because it's there, our music will be perpetuated
Right.
through that medium a lot. I work with the Sicilian Tenors, a 3 tenors group, as you know very well, Sam Batali and Elio Scaccio.
Yep.
We're as busy as ever. I mean, even though the live stuff got canceled, we have a lot going on in the fall. That's an interesting question. It seems to me, Vince, that the that older population has died off.
Right.
That group of men and women that were around 20 years ago, it's kind of gone. With that, a lot of our music changes. Every generation, the music changes. They no longer know the older songs like Piemontesina, Bella, or La Romanina or something, just to give a generic example.
Right.
They want to hear Lasciatemi cantare.
Right, yeah.
Or Ti amo, so and that's a generational thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The good news is, and I'm trying to be as brief as possible on this question here, but there's a lot to it. The good news is we have a body of music, just as we have the American songbook. We have the Italian songbook. And we have a world songbook as well. Mm-hmm. So if you go on a cruise and people from all over the world, okay, I got news for you. O Sole Mio is arguably the most famous song in the entire world.
Right, yeah.
Go anywhere. Go to China. Go to Tibet. They don't know Happy Birthday, but they know O Sole Mio. Right, go to South America. Go anywhere in Europe. Go anywhere, they know that tune. As well as Furiculi Furicula.
Right, yeah.
As well as Santa Lucia. So, as well as La Donna Immobile. Do they know Al di là, Mala Femmina?
Right. Maybe if they saw the mob movies, but
maybe,
right.
and that might be where it's perpetuated. But I'm scared. I mean, I don't know if I'm scared, but I raise an eyebrow. I'm kind of thinking like, okay, how are we going to do this? And because that concern is out there on my radio, on my my antenna or whatever, right. When you talked about bringing up this podcast, video, vlog, whatever it is, I jumped at the chance to be involved. You remember, I said, hey, can I help?
Yeah.
How can I help? Because this is important to me. I see you with your son. I just saw the video you put out of him with Cella Luna. I mean, that's the kind of stuff, that we need. That kind of, those emotional connections with the music. And also, Peppino the Mouse, those cute little songs.
Oh, yeah.
I put songs like that on my CD that I have kids that are now grown up, they're 20 years old saying, I remember I used to listen to that when I was little, your CD. And I'm going, I'm getting old.
Yeah.
But I think there's hope as long as there are people out there like you, Vince, that are passionate about this and that are organized and you want to get that out there. Yeah, so I think there's hope.
I just interviewed Ron Onesti, and I brought this up to him, and the one thing that I said in the interview, we're Italians, so we don't grow up with many other cultures, and all this other music, but I still believe there's a point to what I said, which was, if you go anywhere and you do ba-da-da-da, ba-da-ba-da, immediately everybody thinks Italian. There's right. There's no 30 seconds to think, what is that? It's immediate. Oh, I heard that when I was at Olive Garden eating breadsticks or whatever. It's immediate, that our culture is that fast of a you can realize what somebody's singing. So I think there's staying power with it. It's not something that a lot of people, whether they're Italian or not, you see it with the Italian festivals. People go to feel Italian for the day or for the weekend, whether they are or not. They want to feel that way. They like it either because they've seen it in the movies or whatever. And, So I think there's hope because last year I played at Vandergrift. I think you were there. Did you play at
Yes,
Vandergrift? Yeah, I
great
play.
place.
It is. You know, it's kind of like you think this small little town, and then there's so many Italians out there. It's crazy. But I know Pennsylvania had a lot of Italian immigrants there. But I played there 6 years ago or so, and I met
Yeah.
this little boy who was, I don't know, 6, 7 years old, and he came up, bought my CD, and wanted to take a picture with me, and said, "Our son loves this Italian music." I was like, "Oh, that's great." Last year, it was like 5 years later, 6 years later, they come backstage and they have my original CD, and this kid listens to it all the time, and now he's like 13, 14, whatever. So there's still hope. There's things like that makes it. It's not, the money and all this and that. It's, at least what we're doing is going to the next generation, and we're still young, but it's, it's got to keep it going. So there's things like that at least give it some hope that, someone's paying attention. It's making somebody happy. So
I agree, and I'm having a little lighting issue. Don't
oh.
mind I'm getting brighter, and then it's getting some. I agree. Vince, there was a great book out there that I didn't read yet. Started reading it, called "100 True Fans," I think it's called. And the idea behind it was, as independent artists, you really can make a great living if you have 100 of those diehard fans. You know the ones I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
They're at every festival, they're at every function, every theater you do, and they're there. Okay, so if you have 100 of those, they make the argument of the book. That's my understanding of the book. So, as independent artists, we don't have the medium of television reaching millions and millions of people all the time. If you do, we do get some television here and there. The computer has helped a lot. But I think that the bottom line is we have to put out good content. And one thing I always liked about you that I've noticed is you always put out quality content.
Thanks.
There's an Italian saying, it's really an American thing. If you're going to do it right. But especially those Italians. I mean, they'll get away from that. Let me do it. I'll show you. Do it like this. You're going to do it, don't do it. You're going to do it, you're going to do it. That put out quality stuff, and it's going to attract the kids like that, the families like that. You know what I mean? Put stuff out that you would want to hear, and shoot for those 100 true diehard fans, and keep that group happy. And from there, da cose nasce cose. From things, other things are born. Yeah. But I think that's the way to do it. I really do.
Yeah, and
putting quality stuff.
And like you do too. My band's kind of doing the same thing, where it's not just go up and be an impersonator and disappear. You're doing it a little different, where you add the shtick to the. You're not just Pavarotti up there.
Yeah.
You're serious about it. But when I played with you and backed you up on the drums, it's I could tell that you're very similar to me. It's do this, do Peppino, and then go to O Sole Mio, and then go to this one, and then you mix it up a little bit, and you try to appeal to the vast majority of everyone out there. And that I think that's the right way to do it, because you're never going to appeal to everybody, but and that's kind of why I make mine a little more upbeat, Latin, flamenco-y.
I love that.
Try to make it a little different. So
we have to collaborate on some of those Gypsy Kings-esque arrangements, and the Neapolitan stuff lends itself so well to that.
It does, yeah. I'm actually trying to work on something I love Dicite in cielo voi. That's one of my favorite songs. But, you start singing that somewhere, people are going to be like, what the heck is this? Especially if they're not, diehard Italian. But I'm trying to speed it up a little bit, rearranging it. Maybe if it works next year when we're playing out, I'll do it. But some of the, Nascere Maggio and all those old songs.
That's a tango.
Yeah, those are beautiful songs. It's just... I don't like playing them like Sergio Bruni style, where it's way old school, and no one's going to really want to pay attention to that. So
they didn't even pay attention to him when Sergio Bruni, when he came, he stopped playing. He walked off stage. He's like, "Have you going to, you guys are going to shut up, or what are you going to?"
Yeah, he's one of my favorites, but Anyways, while we're getting close to the end here,
Yeah.
you already said you're part of the Sicilian Tenors. What's next for you? What's next for the Sicilian Tenors? And if there are any upcoming shows this year, unfortunately, what do you got going? And how do people find out about you and all that stuff? So,
Well, what's coming up next? I'll be in Dayton, Ohio. I think the 10th, 11th, 12th, whatever that weekend of September. They're doing a drive-by Italian festival. People are.
I don't know. That sounds a little.
I
careful,
mean,
be careful saying that to Italians. Drive by.
oh yeah, right. Yeah, right. They they own the land over. They do a heck of a job out there in Dayton. Those guys, Brian and the crew. I mean, they just are phenomenal. And they own the land. They make their own food. It doesn't cost them a lot to put it on, and the people want to do it. They can't really have them park their cars because Italians, once they park, they're out of the car and hey, you're doing, how you doing?
Yeah.
So they're driving by, so they're going to park us at a like a stage, and as they're driving by, they're going to hear us play. And, I guess the point is they're trying to do something to perpetuate exactly what we're talking about, and I applaud them for it.
Yeah.
Other than that, I get some stuff in Florida. I couldn't even tell you the dates, but with the tenors, we're working on a whole new series of videos. We just recorded them here in Michigan. They're phenomenal. One looks like Miami. We did a Phantom of the Opera thing at the Whitney in downtown Detroit, which is a gorgeous old mansion kind of a place. And then we did a God Bless America at our base, our Air Force base here.
Oh, cool.
Called Selfridge Air Base. So it's very, very passionate and inappropriate for now. But, we always do stuff to celebrate our veterans in every show, and I do as well. So we have a lot of shows coming up in the fall. SicilianTenors.com is our address. And I'm revamping my entire website. I have a new Aaron Caruso Music.com. I'll get you the info. We can tag it on, all that stuff. But you can find me on Facebook as well. I have a Facebook fan page, Aaron Caruso Tenor, or just Aaron Caruso, I believe. And YouTube. I'm on YouTube. Okay. And I delve into Instagram, but I don't do TikTok. That's the one thing.
You don't do TikTok?
I can't even turn the thing on.
I can't figure it out. I gave it up.
I'm
too old.
That's what I said. It's like, oh my gosh, we've hit that point, Vince. Hey, we can't figure out a newfangled gadget.
I panicked this year. I turned 30 in April, and I panicked. It was, oh my God, I'm 30.
Oh my gosh, you're so young. Are you kidding me?
Everybody keeps saying that, but I feel old.
For the Italians.
Yeah.
Vince is only 30.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today. We'll have to get you on again. Maybe we can do a big Zoom with all the Sicilian tenors, all you guys, and that'd be kind of cool. So thanks again. It's been great knowing you all these years. Unfortunately, we met at the Portland Festival. That one's not around anymore. It's sad. It's sad, some of these festivals. I hope they start coming back, and what are you going to do? But hopefully we'll meet again soon next year at some of these summer festivals, and people can see us together. That'd be fun. So
I would love that. It's always a pleasure to share the stage with you and the guys, and or to run into you at a festival. I love hearing what you do. I love seeing all the videos you put out, and again, the quality content that you do. So I'm honored to be on this this video podcast,
and, whatever it is, yeah,
whatever it is. And I say to your audience, stick around, subscribe to this, share it to all your friends, because we're trying to get the word out there to maintain and promote our rich Italian American culture through music. So.
That's right.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks again. And everybody check Aaron out on Facebook, the website. I'll tag everything on here later. So, all right. Thanks, Aaron. We'll talk to you soon. There you go. All right. We'll see you later.